everybody, and welcome to episode 89 of Halfway Through the Heat, the world's most important, longest-running, and most exciting trans-Pacific wrestling podcast coming to you from both sides of the world. That's right, the world has only two sides, and we're on both of them. Coming to you from New England in the United States of America, I'm Tom. Joining me from greater metropolitan Tokyo in the nation of Japan is Joe. Joe, how are you doing?
I am okay.
That's good to hear. I understand the Emperor of Japan is abdicating. Is that right?
That is true. Sort of true in that, like, he's going to abdicate, but they really don't want him to.
I see. I know some. I'm up on some news from Japan. What would happen if he abdicates? Is there a new emperor? Is there like a tournament? Is it going to be Matt Riddle? Is Matt Riddle going to be the Emperor of Japan? God, I hate Gabe's booking.
There is a death match tournament to determine the new Emperor of Japan. Actually,
Tremont is going to be the new Emperor of Japan.
It goes to the next male in line, but like they're angry about this. Like they don't want the like 80-something-year-old emperor to have any time to relax. So they're just like, no, you have to be emperor forever. And though he's abdicating, they're like fighting to make it so that whoever will be the next emperor doesn't have any power until the actual emperor dies. Not that the emperor has any power, but like, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like being Queen of England, right? Like, you really don't have a job necessarily. You just sort of, it's more of a figurehead position.
Yeah. It's not that exciting.
Well, I'm glad you folks have tuned in to our Japanese royalty episode, but we've also got other things to talk about, namely...
Oh, you guys, the Japanese royalty part of this episode is going to be the most fun part because
this is actually that was the best part of it. That's it. It's all downhill from here. If you guys watched along with this week's installment, you know what we're talking about. This week we are doing WCW New Blood Rising.
Oh, jeez, New Blood Rising. This is like smack dab in the middle of Vince Russo's tenure in WCW. Man, the pay-per-view is named after a group that no longer exists. It's the dumbest, like, literally a third of the matches on the card are something out of pole matches.
The New Blood faction was formed in WCW in April of 2000 and had already gone defunct by the time this pay-per-view came around in August of 2000. Even though it was named after them for some reason. Not surprisingly, this is less than a year after WCW would fold for good. But before we jump into it, though, let's set the scene for you. We're going to hop in the Wayback Machine and go all the way back to August 13th, 2000. The number one song in America is Incomplete by Cisco. I don't know that one.
I don't know the song, but I at least know who Cisco is. So like I'm one up from last week where I just didn't even know what you were talking about.
Shout out to a podcast listener, Mark, who texted me a picture of the cover of a Lone Star Greatest Hits CD. It didn't jog my memory. I have no idea who they are, but he noticed it and sent me a picture.
Is it just that one song?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they had other hits. I don't even know. I think it was country music. I don't know. But the number one movie in America was Hollow Man, starring Kevin Bacon. He was the Invisible Man.
Not a good movie.
Not a good movie.
Though I believe I did see it in the theater, but
wow,
still not a good movie.
Paul Verhoeven's last movie in the United States.
That's bad because like Paul Verhoeven made some awesome movies. Made some really good movies, but Hollow Man is not one of them.
It's not. You're not missing anything. Big news story is the Russian submarine Kursk sank the day before this pay-per-view, killing all 118 men on board. Bill Clinton is your president, and we are going live to beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia in the Pacific Coliseum for an announced paid attendance of 6,614, which is pitiful. Pitiful when you consider that was about the size of ECW pay-per-view crowds at the time. And God, it had only been just over a year since WCW was routinely packing in shows at the Georgia Dome, which seats like 40,000 people or something.
Yeah, this is like an enormous drop off for WCW at this point, and I mean, once you look at this pay-per-view, you'll totally understand why. And it's not and like you'd like to think that it's because like all the wrestlers on here suck, but like that is absolutely not true because
Not the case.
there are so many good wrestlers on this show doing so many terrible things. And it's I mean, there are bad wrestlers also, but there are there are there are some there are some really good wrestlers on this show, and like almost none of them have anything. Either they're not doing anything, or they're doing stupid things. So like the amount of matches that are actually good is really small. Um, and then there's like a lot of matches where they could have been good, but just weren't good because of things on polls and shit. Yeah.
The key to understanding this pay-per-view is that this is Vince Russo. Vince Russo, if you're not familiar with his work, Vince Russo owned a video store on Long Island, and he was a huge wrestling fan and would call into a wrestling radio show. And eventually it sort of like took over the wrestling radio show from the host, which in turn got him a writing job at the then WWF in the 1990s, and he worked his way up the writing staff and became head writer of the WWF in the late 90s during the Attitude Era, when they became very successful. And he eventually got fired from WWF, he and his friend Ed Ferrara, and they went over to WCW with a lot of fanfare because these were supposed to be the top two writers. These are the guys who made WWF number one. And they have never been successful since.
Was he fired? I thought he quit like without notice to go to WCW. Like he didn't have a contract, and he just was like, WCW's going to pay me a lot of money. See ya.
So there's variant stories on what happened, and it's sort of a did he jump or was he pushed thing? Did they tell him to leave, and then did he say he left on his own, or but he would eventually come back to WWF very briefly. But he had a long run in TNA, and if you'll recall, he's maybe the big reason that TNA lost their Spike TV deal.
He is one of the biggest reasons, apparently, because they demanded that no Vince Russo on the writing team, which is hilarious because people at Spike TV are not exactly wrestling bookers, but even they were like, no Vince Russo, get that dude out of here.
And yet Dixie Carter could not resist the siren song of Vince Russo because of this idea that Vince Russo, more than anyone else, has been responsible for, that he was the guy who won the Monday Night Wars. In reality, if you ask my opinion, WWF won the Monday Night Wars in part because they had a lot of really top performers. They gave those top performers the space they needed to be distinct. Think of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mick Foley, The Rock, those guys. And they ripped off ECW. A lot of the Attitude Era stuff was just sort of like a kind of a watered-down version of what ECW was doing. The idea that sort of Vince Russo was coming up with, like, you know, these angles on his own, a little far-fetched when you think of most of the stuff that really, like, went over big had been done in ECW before in some form or another. And the other thing that, to me, argues against the idea that Vince Russo was responsible for the success of WWF, Vince Russo has never been successful since then. Never.
Yeah, pretty much everything he's done since then has been a horrible mess. And, yeah, there's no excuse for anything that Vince Russo has done. It's just all awful. And so you'll see throughout this entire episode, because you'll get to see all types of things where it's just like, this is such Vince Russo booking that, like, you will be able to recognize every point of it. It's so terrible.
The keynote of this podcast is going to be how much we don't like Vince Russo because his ideas are terrible. And let's start with a good example of it. The first match in the show should have been kind of a can't miss. It's 3 count, which their gimmick was that they were a boy band, but they were 3 really good wrestlers: Shannon Moore, Shane Helms, and Evan Courageous. The cruiserweights versus the Young Dragons, who are also 3 really good cruiserweights, in a ladder match. And so you think, like, all right, well, how could this go wrong? What could possibly be bad about 3 exciting, fast-paced guys going against 3 other exciting, fast-paced guys in a ladder match? Well, let me tell you something. This isn't any ordinary ladder match. Oh no, no, no. There are two things suspended above the ring, and the only way to win is to get those two things down. One is a record contract.
Gold
'Cause
record and a recording contract on a pole.
the
Though the I want to point out that the first thing they took down was the record, and it had no reason to be there because like it did nothing. The Young Dragons actually took down the gold record, but okay, whoever got the recording contract afterwards was the winner. So like it didn't matter that the Young Dragons took down the gold record. So in a sense, it didn't matter that it was even there.
it's effectively this was a best 2 of 2 falls match, and each team won one fall.
Yeah, essentially that's what happened. But three count one because they got the last one. It made no sense.
It made no sense. The logic was terrible. Part of the gimmick was they were a boy band, and Tank Abbott, who was an MMA guy, was like their he wasn't like a manager or anything, but he was like a huge fan. The joke being, oh, this tough, legit shoot fighter loves boy bands. And by the way, Tank Abbott has said repeatedly he loved this gimmick because he didn't have to do anything and he got paid a huge amount of money, essentially just like goof off at ringside. But so he interferes at the end and he beats up the Young Dragons and steals the gold record. But the whole thing is just the logic of the match is non-existent. However, there's a lot of good spots in the match.
Yeah, so like this is the kind of match that it could have been good. Like the match itself, like what was happening, it's like one of those like kind of clustered current modern indie matches where you'll just get like the Young Bucks plus somebody versus 3 other dudes who are going to do something awesome, and then like they just go nuts. Like this was this match. It was fast paced. It had a lot of action. Had come crazy high spots. It's a ladder match, so there's all types of like ladder smashing things where you're just like, oh my god, please don't die. But like it just there's no reason to care about this match because there's no like a real way to win. It doesn't make any sense. Like yeah, it's like a 2 out of 2 falls match where each team won one. Like who cares? No, there's no winner there. And then like it had the extra thing where Tank Abbott was interfering and doing other stuff, and then it didn't really amount to anything. He wasn't like super instrumental in the win. He was just kind of there, and he took the gold record after the Young Dragons got it down, and he was like parading it around the ring, but like he didn't get it. The Young Dragons took it down.
Yeah.
So it was the kind of thing where like they won it. And then like the huge problem with this match is that like not only did they start it off with like a ladder match full of like awesome dudes who were going to do crazy high spots, like it basically killed the crowd for anything else afterwards. Like what are you going to do? How are you going to follow that up? This is the kind of thing where like like on TLC matches, it would be like if you had the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus Edge and Christian as the first match on the show. Like nobody would care about anything after that because there was going to be no spots in this entire show that were going to be higher than the ones in this match. There was going to be no kinds of like fast-paced action that was going to be better than the ones in what happened in this match. And that was true. Nothing better, like nothing on the same level happened on the entire show. Even though there were good matches where like it was like all right stuff happened, nothing was going to meet the like hype levels of this match just because of the way it was set up. And even then, the match was like a booking mess. So like it didn't even end up being that good in the end because like it was just confusing. Like how do you win this? Who won? Why did they win? I don't get it. So like it turns into a mess. You just like although all the dudes in the match did a really good job, the booking of it was so muddled that you don't know what happened. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess something happened here, and I guess 3 count wins. Great.
This is, as we'll see as we go along, some classic Vince Russo action. After that match, we go backstage where the Filthy Animals faction is promising to help Ernest the Cat Miller, who is, for some reason, WCW commissioner at this point, help him beat the Great Muta in his match as long as he makes them special guest referees of the tag team titles match, and then give them a shot against the champions.
Let's talk about this for a second, because this is another thing that's really dumb. Because Ernest the Cat Miller is a face. He's supposed to be like the face manager, the face like commissioner of WCW. Like, he's supposed to be over with the crowd, and like he's supposed to be the good guy here. But he's like willing to take the filthy animals who are heels, helping him get a win his match. Like, he's like, yeah, I guess I can do that deal. And then like he goes out into the match and he's the face. But still he's like willing to win on the cheat. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the booking for this is all screwed up, because like halfway through the match you're like, well, they're going to try and screw the Great Muta here. That's bad. He's the heel, but we kind of want him to win now because he's the one who's getting cheated. It doesn't make any sense. The booking is terrible.
And it's a classic Vince Russo idea that there's no such thing as heels or faces. This is one of the tenet of Vince Russo's beliefs, that it doesn't really matter. Everyone sort of does the same thing. Everyone is as sort of shades of gray. In theory, that might be an appealing idea, like, oh, we're going to make wrestling a little more sophisticated. But in practice, people want to cheer for somebody, and they want to see someone get their ass kicked who has it coming. That's the basics of wrestling. And if you don't have a clear heel and a face, this is a problem that afflicts the indies to this day. If you don't have a clear heel and face, it's really hard to get people into a match. No matter how good the match is, no matter how good the two wrestlers are, if the crowd wants both guys to win or neither guy to win, they don't care about the match.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, like, when you go into this match, like, it's already set up that it's not even like nobody is a heel and is a face. Muta is obviously the heel here.
Right.
He's set up as the heel. The people in the announce team set him up as the heel, but like, they don't do a good job with the Cat, just because like he's supposed to be the face, but they know he's gonna cheat, so they can't be like, oh yeah, that Cat, he's so good. Like, it's not helped that Mark Madden is on announcing, and he's shit. He's just awful. And like, like, I like Tony Schiavone as an announcer. Like, I think he's a good announcer. And like, Scott Hudson is the third guy on this, and I thought like Scott Hudson is actually like a pretty good announcer. Like, it's on this pay-per-view, if the announcers were just Tony Schiavone and Scott Hudson, like, it would probably have been at least a little bit better for like some of these things, where at least they would have been able to like properly get the story over correctly. You know what I mean? Where instead it's just like, Mark Madden was like trying to like tell jokes that were bad, but like he would repeat them over and over and over throughout the entire pay-per-view. Man, Mark Madden really made things worse.
Easily one of my least favorite commentary guys in pro wrestling history, and to this day, he is one of the like easiest people in wrestling Twitter to troll. Like, he takes the bait from people every single day. Every single day, if you follow Mark, he does like sports radio in Pittsburgh, and if you go to like Mark Madden's Twitter, like every day he's like freaking out about how he's gonna block everyone. And like he just like he is the most capital M capital O mad online guy there is. He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, but that's obvious by just listening to him on commentary. It's so bad. It's terrible.
He briefly had the national spotlight on him during the Jerry Sandusky scandal. If you remember that, the Penn State child molestation scandal, when he claimed that there was a ring of powerful rich people who Jerry Sandusky was supplying with children for grotesque sex acts, which of course was never proven to be true or anything. But he got a lot of attention for like a day. Mark Madden, and you get to listen to him fuck up this pay-per-view. But anyway, we have this match. It was weird to see Muta back, because he had been a huge star in WCW in the early 90s, but he hadn't been in WCW in a long time here. This is really at the end of his career. The crowd sort of doesn't care.
Yeah, this is like a disgrace of a match. Like, and it's not because of the people wrestling. It's like, okay, it comes out and like, again, I've mentioned this, that the Cat is supposed to be the face. He comes out, immediately gets the mic, and cheap shots Muta with the mic. And
Right.
then I want to say that like Muta in this match looked really good. Like he had like really smooth transitions. He was like snappy movements. He did some awesome moves. But like the thing with it is that like the cat is not a good wrestler. Um,
No.
he he's like a karate dude who sort of has like a big personality. Like that's why he was on TV and he was like Eric Bischoff's neighbor or some shit. Eric Bischoff's kid's karate teacher. And we're just like, yeah, let's add him to the show. But like, man, this match is not only is it not gonna it's not gonna be a good match because the cat is never gonna have a good match, but like you know Muda is still a good wrestler at this point, even though I mean he still wrestles. It's not like he doesn't wrestle anymore. Um, it's just that like when you get into this, like man, he does some cool things, and like every time Muda does a dragon screw leg twist, I'm like all excited. I'm always like super excited because it always looks so awesome, even though like you know it doesn't do anything. Um, but in this match, like it happens, and I'm like, oh yeah, dragon screw leg twist, that was awesome, and then like you get the green mist and everything, but like it's this match is so overbooked because like already we already know that there's going to be interference, but we already like the cat comes out, there's a cheap shot from the beginning, then they do this thing where like Muda gets some offense and then the cat does some kicking and makes a comeback. Muda does the mist, and then like the the ref is missed, I believe, in this. The ref gets missed in the face, and maybe that's the later match. I don't remember because it happens again. But someone gets misted in the face. I think it's either the cat gets misted and the ref is helping him, or the cat doesn't get misted and the ref gets misted instead, and the cat is trying to help the ref or whatever. And then like Tigress comes out, who is part of the Filthy Animals, and she hits Muda with a chair, and then the cat gets the pin, but Muda kicks out at 2, and then the cat just wins clean. Like he gets like his terrible finisher and wins. Um,
So again, the bad guy on here is overcoming tremendous odds and cheating to persevere. That's the story they're telling.
yeah, that's a shit story. Nobody wants that story because everybody is supposed to want the great Muda to lose. Whereas Muda comes out like he gets cheap shotted right from the beginning, so he's already on the downside. And then like he comes back and starts to win, and then like he gets hit with a chair by outside interference, but still manages to kick out at 2, and then Urs Miller wins. Like it's the dumbest idea for a match ever. It makes no sense because I mean, first of all, the Great Muta he's a fucking wrestling legend, and he's like getting jobbed out to Ernest the Cat Miller. But
It's
like,
very sad.
but also, the booking for this match is so bad that like, I mean, the crowd is dead for this because why wouldn't you be? The guy you're supposed to hate is the one who you want to cheer for in this match. And the guy you're supposed to like is like doing all the shady shit that you don't like.
Any match would have a hard time following the spot fest that came before, but this is just, I mean, this is I think you called it right. This is a shambles. This is a disgrace. Um, but it's nothing. It's nothing. It's a fucking, it's a 60-minute Broadway with Harley Race compared to what comes next.
Fucking hell.
Which is, this is still to this day is like shorthand for the worst of WCW. The famous, the legendary, the notorious Judy Bagwell on a pole match.
Okay, this is dumb. It's super dumb. Judy Bagwell comes out on a forklift driven by Canyon. Canyon cuts a terrible promo. Canyon is a perfect example of why you need someone like Jim Cornette as a manager. And it's not that Canyon is bad on the mic, it's that he has a speech impediment. Like, you can't take him seriously. He's like constantly lisping. It's just like this kind
Yeah.
of thing where like um he has an obvious speech impediment, and he cuts this promo that's like, you know, it does what it's supposed to do. It's like, he's supposed at this point he's positively Canyon, so he's basically like a clone DDP, where he's trying to take over DDP's life or whatever.
Right.
If you guys remember this terrible storyline from 2000 WCW, but geez, and I actually want to preface this by saying that like I was a die-hard WCW person at this time. Like I was not watching WWE, but I watched WCW up until the last day, and I mean I watched ECW and WCW basically at this time, and like man, e- even this period in 2000 was even testing my patience.
This was so bad. This match is so I mean the idea is Canyon's a bad guy. He kidnapped Buff Bagwell's mother. You can't put a human being on a pole. Well, you can, but it's more of a stripper thing. So they put her on a forklift, and so Buff Bagwell comes out, and it's a Buff Bagwell Canyon match. It is what it is. It's not great.
Yeah, I want to say that like this match isn't a horrible wrestling match. It's not like Canyon isn't a bad wrestler,
No,
and
neither is Buff Bagwell,
yeah,
but
and
they're
Buff Bagwell isn't a bad wrestler either. It's just like they're not great wrestlers. They're just kind of like all right. They're and like so like it's not even that bad of a match. It's actually like what they do in the match is it's passable. It's not like I was watching this thinking like this is a shit match, but like the concept is so dumb, and they both know it's dumb, so they're just kind of phoning it in. It's like they're just kind of going through the motions for this match. You can feel like watching them wrestle. You feel like, well, they're not doing anything. They're not trying to do anything special with this. They're just trying to get through this shitty booked match, and that's what it is. But like you think that like a match that's the Judy Bagwell on a pole match isn't going to have any more crap thrown into it. You'd be wrong there, because this match it's about Judy Bagwell on a pole, but former WCW champion David
world
Arquette.
champion.
David Arquette comes out to interfere. It's dumb. Um,
For some reason, David
yeah,
Arquette is on the side of Canyon.
yeah.
It's
David
not
Arquette
clear.
comes out, and the announcers are like, "Who is he coming to help? What is happening? Why is David Arquette here?" And David Arquette comes out and hits Buff Bagwell with a construction hat, and it's ineffective because Buff is the stuff, and that's my reasoning at least. So Buff Bagwell gets hit with the construction hat, but does not lose. He comes back, beats up Canyon, beats up David Arquette, and wins to save his mother. Dumb. This was
I
dumb.
will say this for David Arquette. He takes bumps pretty well.
Yeah, he did. David Arquette did legitimately take some bumps in this match, not once, but like multiple times, and he did a good job selling. And he he's not someone you'd want to put a world title on, but like
No, no. But after the match, he takes the Buff Blockbuster really well, and then after the match, he takes the Canyon Cutter exquisitely well. He really
he looked
takes
like
a
he
great
was
bump.
he looked like he was gonna die. It was great.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I said, he did a really good job selling that stuff. He's not a wrestler, but he understands. I think like David Arquette himself is kind of overshadowed by the whole like he was the WCW World Champion, and it was a disgrace because it was. But like he is a huge wrestling fan, and
yes.
he does know wrestling, and he's an actor, so like obviously he can sell well. So like he's not actually bad at that part. I don't think like he out of all like the celebrities who have taken part in wrestling, like he's probably on the higher tier, if only because like he can bump, he can do stuff. I mean, I don't
He
know.
would he. I think
Yeah,
he would have been fine if you had brought him in as like annoying Hollywood guy who wants to be a wrestler and then like gets his ass kicked after being a manager for a heel wrestler. I think he would have been great. But they brought him in and made him world heavyweight champion.
yeah, that's a bad idea. They definitely should have done that. It would have been all right. I think people would have enjoyed David Arquette if he were like a shit heel manager that wanted to be a wrestler.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. What could have been? So after the infamous Judy Bagwell in a pole match, we have a. I mean, is clusterfuck? Does this adequately cover? Actually, I've seen
Wait,
clusterfucks that work better than this.
you're missing one of the greatest moments of the pay-per-view.
Wait, what
A
am I missing?
police escort limo shows
Oh,
up.
no, that's right. No, that is pretty good.
Okay, so there's an entrance here where like there's a police escort. They show the police coming up in this big limo, and they're like, "It's got Canadian flags on it. Who could it be?" And there's like this big police escort where the limo shows up, and Lance Storm gets out. That's it. That's the one of the best moments of the pay-per-view. So great.
It was
Lance
pretty
Storm,
wonderful.
who has like 3 titles at this point, and he has like slapped a Canadian flag sticker over all of the titles. So he's like the U.S. champion, and what else is he at this point? He has the TV champion, a tag champion, maybe. I don't remember.
I think, yeah, there were so many.
Who knows?
I really liked that. It was one of the few things from this era that I liked is the Lance Storm's Canadian, indomitable Canadian gimmick.
Yeah, that was good. Though, I mean, it's sort of it's. I imagine that Lance Storm had more to do with that than Vince Russo did, if only because like it's sort of just the continuation of his ECW gimmick.
Yes. Well, and that, I mean, stealing ideas from ECW would be nothing new for Vince Russo.
Yeah. So, all right. But as you were saying, the next match is a horrible mess. So earlier in the show, we had mentioned that the Filthy Animals had made a deal with Ernest the Cat Miller to be special guest referees in a match, and this is like 8 dudes as special guest referees in a match. It's like, there's so many Filthy Animals that like they couldn't have there was not enough referee shirts to make them all referees.
Of all the fucking things to run out of.
They're like, I guess Conan has to be on commentary because we don't have enough referee shirts. But like everybody else is pretty much a referee. So there's like, this is a 4-way tag team match. So that's 4 tag teams plus like this faction as the referees. It's not even like a single dude from the faction as a referee. It's the entire faction as referees. It's like 15 dudes in the ring.
It's too much. And so the idea here is that the Filthy Animals, again, the babyface commissioner agreed to this. The Filthy Animals quickly, it becomes apparent they want, because they're going to get a title shot against the winner on Nitro the following night, they want Jindrak and O'Hare to win because they assume they'll be the easiest to beat. So again, the babyface commissioner has set up a situation in which the bad guys are trying to pick their own opponents because they think they'll be easy to beat. It's just terrible booking. It's hard to book a 4-way tag under the best circumstances. Booking a 4-way tag when you have like referee by committee, it was like the Last Supper. I mean, there's just so many people in the ring.
Yeah,
it's a mess. There's really nothing worth watching in this match, honestly. The 3-count Young Dragons match was booking wise a disaster, but there was a lot of fun stuff happening. There's not a lot of fun stuff in this match.
Yeah, the only standouts of this match are basically Chronic because they're just huge power wrestlers and they look really good at doing it. And you guys, I mean, like Chronic are just like former WWE people.
Adam Bomb was one of them.
Adam Bomb and the former Kona Crush from Demolition.
That's right, Kona Crush. And if in case that wasn't enough people, at some point there's like this almost never explained or mentioned run-in by Vampiro and the Great Muta. They run into and it's like they run into attack Chronic and it's over so quickly like the commentary team like barely mentions it.
Yes. It shows up later in the night though, because it turns into a part of a story where all these dudes have to wrestle again. Um, but yeah, there is that run-in. It's a stupid mess. There's all this stuff where Disco Inferno is counting super slow and refuses to count a three on I don't remember who it was on, but it was from Chronic pinning somebody, probably Sean Stasiak, and eventually like they just Chavo Guerrero comes out. What is his name at this point? I don't remember. He's part of MIA. He's like General Loco or something. Or
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Some horrible thing. Yep. I forget what it is, but yes.
Lieutenant Loco, I think it is.
Lieutenant Logo. Right. Correct.
And Chavo comes out and basically blindsides maybe Juventud Guerrero or something on the outside and steals his ref shirt and comes in and counts the pin. And somehow just having the ref shirt makes him an official ref for the match. This should be a thing in WCW from this point on. Like everybody should just come out and attack the ref and just steal his shirt. There's all these factions. I mean, apparently that works. So like MIA could just come out and like, you know, one of the terrible, ridiculous Vince Russo names. Fuck, we should talk about that. I'm going to talk about that right now. Fucking MIA is like the quintessential Vince Russo team because like everybody has a fucking ridiculous name. Chavo Guerrero is there. He's Lieutenant Loco. Lash LaRue is there. He's Corporal Cajun. Fucking what's his face? Hugh Morris is there as Hugh G. Rection.
And eventually General Rection.
General Rection.
Yeah, the idea behind MIA was it's sort of like the social outcasts later on, most recently in WWE. Like the idea, like, hey, here are some guys that don't really fit in anywhere, and this was like an era of factions in wrestling. Let's put them all together. But instead of just saying like, hey, these are mostly talented guys. Oh, by the Booker T was GI Bro.
GI Bro, yeah.
Instead of like saying, hey, these are just talented guys, let's throw them together and give them a cool name. It was like, no, they're the Misfits in action. Let's all give them like. They'll all have like new gimmicks, and they'll be military gimmicks.
Oh my god, it was so dumb.
This was also the same thinking that led to them unmasking Rey Mysterio Jr. and like making him wear overalls and devil horns and eat and suck on lollipops. Like fucking one of the most popular wrestlers in the history of Mexico, who would then go on to be one of the most popular Mexican wrestler in the history of the U.S. And Vince Russo's idea for this guy is no, the mask thing, that's not working. We're just going to have him be like sort of someone in the background of a Crisscross video.
Yeah, Jesus. That's basically what he was at this point. The Filthy Animals were basically like background dancers for a Crisscross video. That was all of them. Like you've got two really awesome dudes in that thing. You've got Juventud Guerrera and Rey Mysterio. Like you could have just put those guys and had them wrestle every night and it would have been awesome. But like then you had Conan, who was like terrible by this point, but like he was like one of the most popular wrestlers in WCW at a point, like where he had like the some of the top selling merchandise in the entire company. He was way over. It's just really weird that like they were just like, okay, we have all these guys who are really popular. Let's just take away all their gimmicks and make them this like generic cholo group. Okay. This is a very Vince Russo thing. I can't imagine that this was any of their ideas besides Vince Russo. It's just Vince Russo.
Classic Vince Russo. So with that ending, that gone, it was time for another gimmick match.
Oh, has there been a non-gimmick match?
I guess the Great Muta versus Ernest wasn't a gimmick match, although it had interference, but it wasn't a gimmick match.
Yeah, the next match, this is a match where like if you looked at it, you'd think like this could actually be a good match, and then you look at the gimmick and you're like, this is going to be a terrible match.
Yes.
So the next match is Shane Douglas versus Billy Kidman. And I want to start out by saying that Billy Kidman was awesome in WCW. He was like one of my favorite wrestlers in WCW. I loved watching Billy Kidman wrestle. Um, but this is a strap match. Billy Kidman is a high flyer. He's like a dude who runs all over the ring and like does a shooting star press. He is, if you put him in a strap match, he can't do any of that. A strap match is a brawler match. You don't put Billy Kidman in a brawler match. Doesn't make any sense.
And not only that, it's a strap match where inexplicably the object is to pin or submit your opponent.
Also, not the way a strap match works.
So it's like the strap is just sort of like a distraction really from the match, which they could have just had a match. They could have just had both these guys at this point. Shane Douglas was still capable of really good work. Billy Kidman was arguably at the height of his powers at this point. If you just had these guys have a wrestling match, it would have been fine. But no, let's throw in a strap match without the normal strap match stipulations to make sure Billy Kidman can't do the stuff the crowd likes seeing. That's classic booking.
Yeah, it's the dumbest booking I've ever seen for this was one of the matches I was expecting to be good, and then I realized it was a strap match, and I was like, well, that's out the window. It's going to be awful. And it was awful. It was awful because like this is not the way Billy Kidman wrestles. It's not even the way Shane Douglas usually wrestles.
Right.
It's the kind of thing where like put two dudes who don't usually do this kind of thing into a match forced to do this kind of thing. It doesn't make any sense. It's like you booked this by pulling gimmicks out of a hat. Like you didn't think about who was in these matches. It was just like, okay, I guess it's a strap match. Do it.
And they did it. And it's not awful, but it's not good.
Let's put it this way. These guys are both good wrestlers. So like it wasn't going to be an awful match regardless, but like it was like two good wrestlers who've been hobbled. It doesn't make any sense. Like, like it's like two good wrestlers in the world of Harrison Bergeron. Just like, well, you're a high flyer. We got to put some weights on you, dude. Sorry.
That's the Vince Russo way.
It doesn't make any sense. It's just like most things in this pay-per-view, it doesn't make any sense. But if you thought the endless amounts of bullshit ended in this match with the strap, you'd be wrong because there's more run-ins. At the end of the match, Kidman wins but starts getting beat up, and then Big Vito comes out.
For some reason.
For some reason, because apparently he's connected to Billy Kidman for some reason. I don't know. Who knows? Probably not. And then Big Vito comes out and clears out Shane Douglas to help Kidman, but then Reno comes out to attack Vito, and like even though this wasn't on the pay-per-view, the Reno is famous for like the Viagra on a pole match.
Oh my God, that's right. I'd forgotten about that.
That was a different pay-per-view, I think, or maybe it was like a month previous to this. I don't remember, but like they briefly mentioned it in the announce team briefly mentioned it in this, but like the Viagra on a pole match was definitely involved Reno. So if you haven't figured this out by now, Vince Russo loves things on a pole matches, but he also loves run-ins and people just coming into the ring for no reason, because that's basically been every match so far. Literally every match. Wait, every match. So 3 count versus the Young Dragons had interference by Tank Abbott. Great Muta versus Ernest Cat Miller had a run-in by Tigress, who hit Muta with a chair. Buff Bagwell versus Canyon had a run-in by David Arquette. The 4-way tag match, even though there's already 30 people in the ring, had a run-in by the Great Muta and Vampiro and Chavo Guerrero. Shane Douglas versus Billy Kidman at the end had a run-in by Big Vito and Reno. That's basically the entire show so far has had somebody interfering or running into the match at some point.
I mean, we've made fun of the shine finish. The idea that like they never have a clean finish, like that's an exaggeration. There has not been a clean match on this show.
Yeah, it's
not even close.
It's been straight up garbage. And like it's like someone took a wrestling show and like decide like I like to think that there was somebody else there in the back like deciding who was gonna wrestle, and they were just like, okay, we're gonna put these people together because like this is gonna be a good match, and then like Vince Russo gets a hold of it and he's like, bro, there's not enough gimmicks in this match. There's not enough run-ins. We gotta add these people in, and that seems, like, because some of the matches seem all right, like the matchups. Like,
All right,
I'd like to see a Shane Douglas versus Billy Kidman match. That was a fucking real match. Um, you know,
bro. No, bro. No, bro. No, it's got to be a Tori Wilson's high heel on a pole match, bro. And they're tied together and they're in a space capsule, bro.
well, speaking of tied together with Tori Wilson's high heels on a space capsule, the next match is fucking Miss Hancock versus Major Guns. And I want to start off by saying, fuck these Vince Russo names for real.
I know. I know.
Miss Hancock is this total Vince Russo name.
Like how sad is it that when she came to WWE with the creepy old man Vince McMahon, he was like, "No, we're just going to call you by your real name." Like Vince McMahon was like, "That's fucking juvenile. We're not calling you Miss Hancock."
Yes, and then Major Guns is the other person.
Tylene Buck, who uh if you Google her to find out what she did after WCW, I recommend not doing it while you're at work.
Don't do it at work. That's the best option. But
I will say she remained in a wrestling adjacent space.
that's true. If you guys have some extra money and you want her to maybe do some wrestling videos for you that are of the erotic sort, you could probably do that now. She's in her 40s though now, so I don't know if you're into that, but
You
whatever.
might be.
You might be.
Yeah. She's gone on to a very long erotic wrestling career. The world of customs is one thing, and then there's the world of like there's kind of a gray area between there's like customs that are sort of more fetish leaning, and then there's just like porno wrestling. She's very much in the porno wrestling space these days.
Indeed.
So very Vince Russo-esque career trajectory when you think about it. He would have loved that.
But I don't even know what this match is. I can't even describe it to you because it's such a mess. It's like it's like, when WWF used to have those like strip matches where like you had to tear each other's clothes off. This one is kind of like that, but it's not. It's like a strip wrestling / mud wrestling match that happens halfway through. Like there's the stripping part and then it like moves to the mud wrestling after they're stripped. I don't fucking know. I honestly don't know. I have no idea. Seriously, fuck this match.
So this is billed as an ROTC match. ROTC, if you don't know, is Reserved Officer Training Corps. It's a thing that people who are going to go and are going to become officers in the U.S. military. They're in ROTC in college. They get a college degree. When they graduate college, they immediately start as low-level officers in the military. That has nothing to do with this match, which, as Joe put it out, is an incoherent mix of fetish. So there's a pool of mud up by the entrance, but there are pin attempts in the ring, so the mud doesn't seem to be necessary. And so it seems like a normal one-on-one match, but there's mud nearby. There's encouragement to strip your opponent, but that doesn't seem to win either because there's pin attempts. In the evening gown matches and stuff like that, the winner was the one who stripped her opponent first.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to be the case here. I will say also, Stacy Keibler, who later went on to great fame in Dancing with the Stars and is George Clooney's longtime girlfriend, has said like she was never really a wrestler, but she was an athlete. She did have an athletic background, and so she could do athletic things in the ring. Major Guns like can't even run the ropes.
Yeah, this is terrible, but there's no way to win this match. Like they've never
no, right.
They've never given any stipulation as how this match is won. And you'll know why at the end when it just like ends in a mess where like nothing happens. But like
it ends because so there was a storyline pregnancy.
Yeah, this is one of these fucking awful Vince Russo things that happens. Like okay. There's the storyline pregnancy, and this is the storyline ends in a miscarriage angle. This was like a disgrace. This whole thing is a disgrace. Like, Jesus.
I love hearing the contempt in your voice. So, now that's kind of like a horrifically bad taste angle. Basically, the angle here is Stacy Keibler suffers a miscarriage during the wrestling match, and Major Guns wins because she pins. So you think like, oh, that's fucking horrible. It's awful. This was Vince Russo's second miscarriage match angles.
Yeah,
Not even his first time. He had done this before.
yeah, and it means nothing. It's not.
No.
There's no, like, I don't understand. Like, the miscarriage angle was the dumbest angle because, like, it's like writing yourself into and out of a stupid idea. Like, why would you make this angle where she's pregnant and she knows it, but she's still gonna have a wrestling match? Well, she's
Right.
kind of an idiot then. You don't want to root for her. But then she has a miscarriage, and you're just like, who are you supposed to feel bad for? The idiot who knows she was pregnant but still went in a wrestling match? Like,
Also, I want to point out, like, if someone having a miscarriage, you're sort of naturally sympathetic to that person. She's the heel in the match.
yeah. Also that.
Like, the booking here is that we're gonna, again, just like everything else that's been topsy turvy and wrong tonight. Like, we're suddenly gonna go from being like, woo, hot stuff, two blondes stripping each other and wrestling in mud, to thinking about the tragedy of a miscarriage. This is like, so Vince Russo is a profoundly disturbed human being. I mean, I want you to think about that. He wrote this. His idea, all right, if it's two sexy gals coming out to have a sexy match, right? And it's a fucking travesty match. There's no wrestling. There's mud. There's stripping. But you know what? That's par for the course in the late 90s. WWF did similar things. ECW did similar things. Whatever. But then he throws in the idea that one of them has a miscarriage while you're watching. Hey, were you turned on? Well, let's bring up the concept of a stillborn child for you to think about.
Yeah, this is terrible.
It's a
And-
catastrophe.
And, like, you know what makes it worse? Fucking Mark Madden's announcing during this whole thing, where he's just
Oh.
like, so, if you imagine, like, you know how Jerry Lawler is a fucking creeper in all of his announcements, where he's just like screaming about puppies and shit.
Yep.
Like, he's ridiculous. But in this case, Mark Madden is like just like a creepy dude who sounds like he's masturbating. It's awful.
It's
And
terrible.
like, like you'd imagine, he's like, I don't know how to explain him. Like a dude who's like has like taken like books down from a shelf in a library so he can look through to the next aisle and masturbate at little girls reading books. I don't know, like, I have no idea. Like, that's like basically it. I don't know how to explain Mark Madden otherwise. That's what he sounds like to me. He's just creepy as fuck. Whereas, like, at least when Jerry Lawler does it, it's annoying, but like at least he just seems like a really overexcited like hornball or something. But Mark Madden just seems like he's gonna like sexually attack people. It's gross.
This whole match, it makes me feel like dumber and worse for having watched it.
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing about this match is it was like saved us from having to have anything else to do with David Flair for the night.
Yes. Right, yeah, David Flair, the angle was that he was the father of Stacey. By the way, none of this was based in reality because Stacey Keibler was not pregnant. She is now a mother, though. So mazel tov. So anyway, that appalling mess.
Yeah, jeez. And you think like it couldn't possibly get worse than that. What could possibly make you turn off the pay-per-view in anger and disgust after that, if that didn't do it? Well, something happened after that made me actually stop watching for about a half an hour, and then before I came back to finish the pay-per-view. And I don't it's gonna seem silly to you guys, but I think, Tom, you will be able to relate to this. Because the next thing that comes out is they have the Dark Carnival in the back. It's Vampiro and the Kiss Demon and fucking Great Muta are faction for some reason. But like they come out and they say the Dark Carnival, this is Vampiro and the Kiss Demon and Muda representing the Juggalo army, and I fucking turned off the pay-per-view. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this for now. You've pushed me over to the edge, Juggalo army. And I'm like sitting here, and in my notes, it's just like I have a stream of angry sentences followed by seriously must WCW in 2000 ruin everything.
Because we're talking about Great Muta.
Okay, the Great Muta is not a juggalo. Vampiro might be a juggalo, but like
yeah, Vampiro might be a juggalo. That's fair. But the Great Muta, one of the best wrestlers of all time, did so much for that style of wrestling. Huge star all over the world, and this is what they had him do. This is what they came up with for the Great Muta.
Yeah, geez. But also, Vampiro is like a good wrestler. He's not a bad wrestler at this point. Like he's he's not current Vampiro where he's fat and bald. He's like actually like a pretty good wrestler too. But like
agreed.
Man, they're like tied down with the Kiss Demon, who's just a demon at this point because they probably didn't want to pay Kiss for the using their name and makeup or whatever. And the demon, like, they realize immediately is useless. Like, it's a dumb idea, and they're just kind of saddled with it. So, like, I guess we'll put him in the Dark Carnival and attach it to Juggalos or some shit. I can only imagine that Vince Russo is a huge ICP fan or something. I don't know what it is. Why was ICP in WCW? What was going on?
They had also been in WWF. I think
yeah, but probably when Vince Russo was there.
Well, yeah, maybe he is a huge Juggalo fan. I mean, probably the idea was like, well, they're going to bring in lots of viewers.
I imagine they did not.
I don't think they did. There is a really memorable ICP moment in WCW when Mike Awesome nearly kills one of them.
Yeah, that's the only memorable ICP moment when Mike Awesome powerbombs one of them on top of his like that 70s bus or whatever, and the dude like accidentally slides off and falls on his face. It's great.
It's a great moment, but I think it was on an episode of Nitro or Thunder or something. I don't think it was a pay-per-view.
I don't think it was a pay-per-view. I think it was on a Nitro episode.
Anyway, so it's not even a match. It's not even a match. So the Demon attacks Sting. Sting immediately hits the Stinger Splash and wins.
Yeah, it was like immediate. It was just like Scorpion Death Drop, win.
It's like the only match without a dumb gimmick.
Yeah, this is the first match and I think maybe only match of the night where there's not some bizarre interference or weird gimmick and it's a match that lasts about... Oh, wait. I'm wrong. I'm already wrong. Because I was going to say this is the only match that doesn't have a run-in so far, but actually it has a run-in. It's a match that's like literally 15 seconds. It's the match itself is like nothing. It's like one move done. And then Vampiro and Muta show up and start beating up Sting. And then they're driven off by Chronic, who challenged them to a match later in the night for jumping them earlier. So, like, this is how you use Sting on your pay-per-view. Like, you've got Sting...
15 seconds.
One of the most popular wrestlers of all time, on your pay-per-view. And what you do is you have him wrestle the fucking Kiss Demon for 15 seconds.
At least he won.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's up in the air with this kind of booking. But, like...
There's also one of my favorite moments about this, the commentary happens when the commentary team claims that it was the Great Muta and the Demon who did the run-in the earlier match, when in fact it was the Great Muta and Vampiro. Like, even the fucking commentary team couldn't be bothered to care what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, who cares at this point?
Who cares?
But, like, so... I thought I was gonna be able to say that this match was like the only one that didn't have any like real fuckery to it, but it does. So sorry, this one does too. And the next match is like a match entirely based on fuckery. It doesn't make any sense. And it I mean, obviously it's kind of like it's like a match set up so that like Lance Storm can't lose, but like done in a stupid way that is just like because they're in Canada.
Yeah.
This is like, how like everyone is like Vince Russo is like the king of the swerve. He always wants to have a swerve. This is like matches like one never-ending swerve.
So at this point, Vince Russo, Lance Storm is the holder of the U.S. title, the hardcore title, and the cruiserweight title. So he has 3 belts. And the first swerve is he cuts this long promo about who, the special like ring enforcer is going to be, and he's building it up as a Canadian star, a Canadian legend. Everyone thinks it's going to be Bret Hart, who was with the company at this point. It's not Bret Hart. That would have made sense. It's Jacques Rougeau, the Mountie.
Yeah,
hey!
Everyone liked Jacques Rougeau.
And honestly, I think Jacques Rougeau would have gotten a decent pop if Vince Russo had if Lance Storm had just brought him out instead of doing the build-up where you're expecting Bret Hart and then it's not Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck do you do that? You only do a swerve if the thing you're going to deliver is better than the thing the crowd expects.
Yeah, it was not better. I mean, Jacques Rougeau is a good wrestler at all, and
popular in Canada, but he's not Bret Hart.
Yeah, he's not Bret Hart. So like having Jacques Rougeau come out is like dumb. But it's even dumb. It's even dumber considering what happens later in the match.
Yes. So this match is contested under what we are told to accept as Canadian rules.
Yeah, so it means that Jacques Rougeau has a little book with a Canadian flag on it that is apparently the Canadian wrestling rules that he references every once in a while throughout the match.
He occasionally orders the match to restart. So the rules include you need a 5 count for pins, submissions don't count. There's a 10 count after a pin. It's just a clusterfuck. It's awful. Everything about it is terrible. Like, the crowd doesn't like it. No one understands what's going on. This should have been match of the night.
Yeah,
these guys had had a really good match in the previously in the U.S. title tournament that eventually Lance Storm won. These guys were both ECW veterans. They worked really well together. This could have been terrific. Instead, it's one of the most frustrating matches I've ever seen in my life.
It's so dumb because like not only are these two really good wrestlers and they've had good matches before, Mike Awesome and Lance Storm in this match, like the setup for this match is basically that Mike Awesome is destroying Lance Storm. Like, he beats him 3 times. But
because of Canadian rules.
Yeah, it keeps getting overturned. But that's dumb because it makes Lance Storm look really weak. But also, like, Mike Awesome beats Lance Storm pretty quickly and one-sidedly, really. And then, like, they overturn it. And then he wins again and they overturn it. And then he wins again and they overturn it. And, like, it's the kind of thing where, like, eventually they just add a rule where it's like, oh yeah, Lance Storm, if both men are knocked down, the first one to their feet before a 10 count wins. And then, like, Jacques Rougeau beats up Mike Awesome so he can't get up by the 10 and Lance Storm wins. But this is like, it's a never-ending swerve, basically. It's just like they're constantly adding new rules, and that's like not a new thing. I've seen that before in other matches where it actually works. In this match, it does not work out. It's just frustrating and annoying, and you're just like, this could have been an awesome match, but instead it's like this shitty, like, pantomime of, like, just them being evil Canadians for some reason.
It's a chunk of frozen shit, and one of the things that the WWF did really well, and they had like the late period Hart guys, they understood that they were baby faces in Canada, so they let them be baby faces in Canada, and then they'd be villains in the U.S. Here, they're trying to make the Team Canada thing, they're trying to make them the villains in Canada.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's dumb. And, like, even the crowd is not having any of it, because even though they're supposed to be villains, the crowds are just like, we're going to cheer for you anyway. We like you, right. Canada. And, like, there's a constant, like, U.S. sucks chant throughout the entire show.
It's true.
But, as we were saying earlier, like they built up this thing like the special guest referee was going to be Bret Hart instead of Jacques Rougeau. But at the end, Bret Hart comes out.
Right.
So like he was there. Why did you just use him to do it? What it makes no sense.
This might be the match I hated most, even more than the the ROTC Stacy Keibler Major Guns match is more offensive in many ways. But the reason that this one was so like that match was about as good as those two could have. This match is so upsetting because these guys could have a great match.
Yeah, it's like the theme of the show is that like these dudes could have good matches, but they're stuck in this horrible Vince Russo hellscape.
It's the theme of the night, and it's incredibly frustrating when you see really quality wrestlers stuck in garbage, which was the story of WCW at this point in a lot of ways. And it's not over. Folks, the night is not over. Because now, for some reason, we're going to have that Chronic Dark Carnival tag team title match because of the commentaries, the run-in stuff that's been going on through the night that even the commentators have gotten wrong.
All right, give me a second, Tom. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back.
Woo!
All right, so we will continue. So right next we've got this tag title match. Chronic and the Dark Carnival as Muta and Vampiro, which is good. I mean, at least it's not the demon in there.
No, thank God. I just don't care about the storyline, and like they've tried to make us care, and I refuse. I don't care about anything involving the Dark Carnival or Chronic, for that matter.
Yeah, and so we've got this match that's based on all the run-ins from earlier.
It's true. It's a run-in based match.
It's a run-in based match with run-ins.
Yeah, there are run-ins. There's a point where Chronic, it's one of the laziest like tells you can ever see in a wrestling match where they hesitate for so long when they're about to do the high times finisher because they know that they're going to be interrupted, but they're like the guys doing the run-in who turn out to be wrestling's favorite white men. I'll say no more about that. The Harris brothers, Ron and Don, like they're late. So like Chronic are just like clearly waiting for a run-in.
Yeah, yeah. This is dumb. But it's sad because like this could have been an all right match. This is another one that could have been all right, but like it's not like Muda and Vampiro can't wrestle. It's not like the like Chronic as just like big power wrestlers are not bad wrestlers. Um, we've got former Demolition Crush in there. How could it be bad?
That's right. The most essential part of Demolition.
The former Kona Crush.
It could have been like a decent match, but it wasn't even that. And there's another fucking run-in. Has there been one non-run-in match?
Nope.
Every match has a run-in.
Well, I guess the Mike Awesome Lance Storm match technically didn't have a run-in because the special guest attacked Mike Awesome instead of.
That's right. There was no need for a run-in because they essentially had
a never-ending run-in already in the ring. But this match does not have a gimmick. It does have a run-in though. But in the end, the Harris brothers come in and attack Chronic. And Muda hits his moonsault to win the tag team titles.
It's it is what it is.
Everything up until now, every match has had some kind of run-in or interference. Every match.
Why not? Why not?
That
and now
that sort of ends though.
It does sort of end.
It ends. I mean, it doesn't end the endless stream of garbage, but it ends the run-ins because there's no more run-ins from this point on. So, like, up until now, every match has had some kind of run-in. But the next match doesn't have a run-in, it just has ridiculous fuckery.
I'm trying to assemble the fucking events of this match. Like, I sort of don't even know what happened here.
Okay, I'll give you the basic overview. The next match is supposed to be a three-way dance with Kevin Nash, Scott Steiner, and Goldberg. And Goldberg is apparently injured in quotes, from a motorcycle accident the previous day or something. So he is not coming out to the match, but they refuse to admit that he's not going to be part of the match. So Scott Steiner comes out, and Scott Steiner is fucking great because he's Scott Steiner. He comes out, and then they play Goldberg's music in its entirety, and Goldberg doesn't come out, so they play it again. And like the announce team doesn't know what to do, and they're just like, I wonder if this is just Vince Russo trying to like make him look like a fool. I guess that's what he's doing.
Part of what's going on here is that Vince Russo was addicted to the concept of the worked shoot, which is something that can work in wrestling. It can be okay, like the pipe bomb promo, but is often self-indulgent nonsense. So a lot of this is supposed to be a worked shoot. Like, the idea is we're not supposed to know what's real, what's storyline. The problem is even a small crowd like this one in Vancouver, the vast majority of the people have no fucking idea about backstage news. They don't care. That's true today. People don't give a shit except for a very small number of superfans. Vince Russo was obsessed with those superfans, as he is to this very day, obsessed with those superfans in a weird love-hate relationship. And so he started booking with them in mind, as opposed to the vast majority of people who didn't care about who had heat with who and who was dating who and what's going on backstage.
Yeah, so this is the thing where like it's basically built up to be this work shoot where like Goldberg is refusing to take part in this match because he doesn't like Kevin Nash or whatever. And yeah, this match. Basically, it starts out with just Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner because Goldberg doesn't show up, and there's a point in the match which was hilarious to me, was that Kevin Nash did the worst looking DDT I've ever seen in my life. It was awful. It was so bad that like it was barely a DDT. But then even the announce team is really surprised that Kevin Nash did a move outside of his normal moveset.
I was too.
The announce team was like, "You don't see that kind of thing from Kevin Nash." No, you don't, because Kevin Nash has like three moves, and DDT is not one of them, and you can tell why because he's fucked it up. Like, it was awful. It was the worst looking DDT I've ever seen, and that was it though. But Goldberg did eventually come out, start attacking people, and he came out with taped up ribs, and then there was the work shoot swerve part of it where Kevin Nash goes to put Goldberg up in the jackknife, and Goldberg just like walks out of it, just like pushes him off, and is just like, "Screw this, I'm not doing this match," and he just leaves. Vince Russo comes out. Vince Russo himself comes out.
Yep.
And it's fucking stupid.
Again, the head writer keeps inserting himself. Part of this was the pay-per-view before this had been Hulk Hogan's final appearance in WCW. No one knew that at the time, where Vince Russo came out and quote-unquote fired Hulk Hogan. And the question was it a real firing? Was it a storyline firing? Blah, 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 blah. It turned out to be a storyline firing that led to Hulk Hogan really quitting or just not showing up. And he had creative control in his contract, so he could do that. But like Vince Russo, again, was obsessed with this idea of reality and fiction blending. And nobody in the crowd wants that. People just wanted good wrestling, which is the wrestlers could have delivered, but the booking was thwarting at every turn.
Yeah, so I guess like apparently that Hulk Hogan thing was that they had the match was supposed to be that Hulk Hogan was supposed to lose, but Hulk Hogan has creative control. And the idea was that like what Hulk Hogan would do apparently was that like if there was no storyline for Hulk Hogan after he lost, then he would just change it because he would be like, well, if there's no story for me after this, why would I lose? There's nothing for me after that. So he would change it and be like, well, I guess I'm not going to lose because you don't have a story for me after this. So what he did was like in that match, like he came out and Russo had written this thing where he was going to lose, and Hogan was like, no, brother, I ain't losing. You have no story for me after this. And I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it has drawn the ire of everybody in wrestling for Hulk Hogan, but like it makes sense for him in the sense that like, you could end up like one of those people in WWF now who like have no story and then like you have nothing to do for you forever. So like, that happened, but like what happened was like they instead of like following what Hulk Hogan using his creative control had said, they like just came out and what's his face? Jeff Jarrett just lied down in the middle of the ring and Hulk Hogan just like put his foot on him and pinned him. And that wasn't planned. Apparently Hulk Hogan didn't know that was going to happen. Which is why he was on the mic saying like this is the kind of garbage why WCW is like not doing so good anymore or whatever he said. And then he left. He just left the building because he was pissed. So he left, but then Vince Russo came out and did that whole thing where like he reinstated Jeff Jarrett as the champion and like canceled that match and whatever, and that like basically violated Hulk Hogan's contract. So so Hulk Hogan never came back because he got like $5 million lawsuit against WCW or whatever for violating his contract from that night. So he was never coming back after that. There was just like after that night he had no reason to come back because he stood to make more money just staying home and suing WCW for violating his contract. So basically Vince Russo not only used his work shoot booking to ruin WCW. It took he managed to take one of their biggest stars off of TV with his ridiculous booking.
Vince Russo is a genius.
And he cost WCW $5 million that they
I hope it's clear from what we talked about that Vince Russo's a genius. So this ends. This match ends. I don't even. This was. I lost. I was losing my will to go on. By this point, and there was so much fuckery in this match, I just couldn't put up with it.
Yeah, it's just such garbage. And then eventually, Scott Steiner just takes the jackknife to lose. That's it.
There were a bunch of low blows before that, like this cascade of low blows that made no sense.
Oh yeah, that was because what's her face? Scott Steiner's
Medeja.
came out and did a low blow on Kevin Nash, and then Kevin Nash returns the
does
low
a low blow on Steiner, and then Medeja does another low blow on it. The whole thing is just everything was overkill. Just do one.
It's very Vince Russo.
Speaking of Jeff Jarrett.
Well, all right, Jeff Jarrett. This brings us to our main event.
It is for the World Championship, recently lost by David Arquette. It is Jeff Jarrett versus Booker T, who was recently had ended his GI Bro gimmick. The storyline here is that Jarrett had smashed a guitar over Booker T's wife, and they were trying to make this into like a big feud feel. It doesn't quite work. It's not a terrible match, honestly.
Yeah, it's actually not a good match, and I think out of everything the WCW had going for it, which was very little at this point, Booker T was one of like these shining spots where he was a really good champion. He was likable. He was nice to have around. Like, it was good to have Booker T as the champion because like he was kind of over, even though his finisher was basically the rock bottom.
Yes, the bookend, and.
When he was doing that 5-time champion thing where he would like hold up his hand and look at it and like do the head shaking to the 5.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah. This match has not 1, not 2, but 3 ref bumps.
Yeah. So like, as I was saying, like you'd think there's no more run-ins, but it doesn't end the constant stream from the first match to the last match of the ridiculous overbooking of everything. So like that never ends. That's everything for this match. But there are a million ref bumps in this match.
I mean, 3 ref bumps. Like at this point, you're making a weird comment on the ref bump as a wrestling trope. You're not actually doing a wrestling match anymore. Like there's no way on earth you can suspend enough disbelief to say like, yeah, I bet the 3 referees will get knocked out during one match. And it's a 3-star match. It's not terrible.
Yeah, it's not actually a bad match. I didn't think this was a bad match at all. I just thought like,
but it doesn't need all the shit. Like you could just have a straightforward match. You don't need refs to get knocked down 3 times. Booker T wins. The crowd doesn't care. In fact, people throw garbage at the ring. It was an inauspicious start. I think you're right. Booker T was a good champion, but like if you want to make your champion strong, just have him win clean.
Yeah, it's dumb. This whole pay-per-view is dumb. Even matches that should have been good were bad. It's such a mess. It's so terrible that. Man, no wonder WCW went out of business. And I remember watching it at this point, too, and I was still hoping that WCW would do better, but, like, with stuff like this, it's no wonder they did not.
The absolute best match of the night involved Tank Abbott stealing a gold record.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
I mean... So, I mean, summing up, I hope it's clear that we hate this, we can't stand Vince Russo, and we want bad things, not terrible things, but bad things that happen to him, like traffic jams, and every time he goes to the drive-thru at Burger King, they short him on his order, and...
I just want him to meet up with Jim Cornette by accident.
I do too, and I want to be there.
I just want him to show up. I want him to be like at a local Hardee's or something, and Jim Cornette walks in.
Just that moment of panic as Vince Russo tries to leave through the emergency exit at Hardee's would be amazing. So in summation, this is not a secret success. It's not even a fiasco. It's a travesty against wrestling.
It's a shit show from the start to the end. Again, it's not due to the wrestlers. Because
honestly, no. Honestly, some things I think have undeserved bad reputations, and you can go back now and watch them and think like this is not as bad as people say. Some things, the reputations have not held up as well. Things that are remembered as classics, you go back and think, this at the time sucked, and everyone knew it sucked. Time has only made it clear how much it sucked.
Yeah, jeez. It makes you feel bad for wrestlers that you know can be in good matches and do good things because they're trapped in this shittiness. But, it also makes you feel bad for any of the other dudes who were like new dudes. Like people who possibly could have had a wrestling career but never did because of this. You'd imagine that if WCW had continued, someone like your Mark Jindrak and Sean O'Hare, those kind of dudes, maybe
Right.
could have done something. Chuck Palumbo and Sean Stasiak. Those kind of dudes, maybe they could have done something instead of just what actually happened to them, which was they went to WWF and they were just jobbed out because Vince McMahon hates anybody from WCW.
Except Goldberg. Yeah, and at this point, this didn't seem catastrophic because nobody thought that in less than a year, WCW, which was still owned by a giant corporation and had tons of money behind it, nobody thought it's going to go out of business. This at the time, it just seemed like, well, that's a shitty pay-per-view. Vince Russo sucks. And then that was that. But little did we know this would be one of the last WCW pay-per-views in history. And it would be, I don't want to say it's the worst because I haven't gone back and rewatched them all, but if it's not the worst, I don't want to see the worst.
Yeah, geez, I don't know what would be the worst, but I'm sure people in the comments will tell us what is considered the worst WCW pay-per-view. It's probably Bash at the Beach, I'd guess, but who knows? This one is pretty bad. I couldn't imagine Bash at the Beach being much worse.
Famous last words.
Yeah, well, we're not watching that next.
We're not.
What are we watching next? We haven't decided that, have we? Should have done that. We should have done that before we started recording, but we did not. So we're gonna have to do it on the fly. Do you have any ideas? Were there any recommendations? Did someone say we were supposed to watch WrestleMania 4?
Yes, that was one of Mark's suggestions. Why don't we watch WrestleMania 4?
All right, WrestleMania 4. What is on WrestleMania 4? That's another Hogan Andre match, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's got the first association with the WWF of President Donald Trump.
Oh, that's right. We've got Donald Trump in there. Okay, I'm looking it up now. So this one does got Donald Trump. It's okay. I'm gonna look over this, but I'm gonna holy shit, 16 matches on this show. It's a lot of matches. Plus, there's a battle royal.
Well, a lot of them are real short, though.
Not really, though. I mean,
4 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah, I guess, but man, I was watching wrestling as a kid at this point, so I recognize all of these people. I know all of these wrestlers. It's not anybody there's no surprises on here. Yeah, this shouldn't be too bad.
No, this will be a nice palate cleanser after New Blood. So if you're planning to watch along with us, WrestleMania 4, which is an interesting time for WWF because they were coming off their greatest ever success, and WrestleMania 3 and they knew they couldn't top it. So they had to point the way to the future somehow, and this is what they came up with.
Yeah. Um, this has a big tournament in it, which is why there's a lot of short matches. But this is like the tournament to win the title, which is vacant at this point. Um, so there's a bunch of tournament matches where you have just like a bunch of brackets. This whole match is like this weird thing where it starts off with a battle royal, and then you have the tournament, and then you have like a tag match and tag championship match, and then the tournament final. So the whole thing is basically just the big tournament. It's not going to be bad though. Hopefully, it's not going to be bad.
No, and this was I think maybe like the zenith of my youthful wrestling fandom, and I think this was when they were making the decision. All right, do we move away from Hulk Hogan as the champ, and who would be the successor to Hogan? So it's an interesting time for WWF, and I'll be happy to check it out. I'm sure that even with a bunch of like real short matches worked in that cartoonish 1980s WWF style, I'm sure that even with that, it's going to be better than New Blood.
I can almost guarantee it will be better than New Blood. I couldn't imagine it being even close to as bad.
No,
because at least these matches are going to have like clean wins.
Yes, and no Vince Russo. He was running a Long Island video store at this point.
Maybe he was
just another wrestling fan.
Yeah, jeez, wow, terrible. Okay, so well, that's the end of this episode. We're going to be watching WrestleMania 4 next. So if you want to watch along with us or before us, and you can listen to this episode and know what we're talking about, this will be WrestleMania 4. You should get on that. We will be back when we're back. Could be next week, could be later. Who knows? But we will be back. So that's it for this episode. I guess if you want to check out more of us, I'm on YouTube, sort of. You can comment below and I will reply. Tom is on the Twitter. He is TJ Breen, right? And we have
That's right.
all the wrestling content you could ever need, stolen by much bigger people on Instagram to
drives me crazy
to raise their followers and not ours. But that's fine, whatever. Don't give us credit, just steal our shit. That's cool. But if you want to check the actual source for the good wrestling stuff, check out Closet of Anxiety at Tumblr. So that's closetofanxiety.tumblr.com, I guess. And
that's right.
Yeah, that's about it.
Dude is even stealing my captions now. It's driving me crazy. Yeah, that's it. Also, if you haven't yet, buy Three Moves of Doom. It's a horror book we wrote about wrestling. It's actually, we've started selling more copies this month, so somebody's out there is buying it. If you haven't yet, you need to do it. It's good stuff. If you like wrestling, and if you like horror, and if you like both, well, then it's perfect for you, friend.
All right, so that's it. We are done. So we will catch you guys next time.